I don't think silver is an organic market per se. The only thing organic about silver is the industrial usage, which I think Ted Butler talked about. At some point, there's so much of this paper trading around that you cannot make electronics. You can't make a circuit board with a contract with a piece of paper. You can't make again, silver is used in so many products that we have, and I think we're coming to that day where silver is going to be very tough to locate and very tough to source. I mean, and then the paper shenanigans will be over.
Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you on behalf of Arcadia Economics in what is going to be our final show of 2024. Hard to imagine how I'm hitting 46, Brian, who is my guest today, and certainly I've noticed how quickly the years go and goes by, and certainly this year an exciting one in gold and silver. And joining me today is Brian Kuzmar of Commercial Rare Coins, who is a bullion dealer. And Brian, I would say one of the key things that we've seen this year and heard a lot about, read a lot about, has been a lot of selling, particularly in silver, somewhat in gold. And I'm looking forward to digging into that along with a whole bunch of other things with you. And of course, most importantly, how are you today, my friend?
Very well, sir. I'm a lucky, blessed man, or whatever you want to call it. Lucky, blessed. Very well, sir. Thank you very much for asking. And yourself?
Well,
I
I'm doing
imagine.
great, and it's a pleasure to see you again. And I'll tell our audience that we got to go down and visit your store, which is in technically Fort Lauderdale. Is or which town are you
Lauderdale by the
based?
sea. More specific, we're kind of like a little town that you could throw a rock from one side to the other and nestled between Pompano Beach, Fort Lauderdale, kind of, and wrapped around that little area.
Well, a good note for anyone in the South Florida area that is ever in need of buying or selling silver. And Brian, first, before we get into what you've been seeing on the retail side, I'll pull up our chart. Seems only fair to get a little
Sure.
bit of a recap of the year on the last day here. We're actually recording on Monday, to be completely honest. So maybe this pricing will be different on Tuesday, but that's when this will go up. And see, we're at 26.11 in the futures. Again, as I've mentioned many times this year, we came into the year expecting 6 or 7 rate cuts, did not get that many. So it was not a situation where we had an unexpected easing, perhaps like in 2020 or 2008. Yet here we are with what I would call the third biggest year in terms of the metals. I preface that with if you look at how much silver was up on the year, like in 1980, silver was at $30 to start the year. So sometimes the moves occur not exactly beginning and end of the year, but
Right.
when you look at the magnitude of it, I stack it as the third biggest one. And any thoughts you have from what we saw this year, and certainly a good year for gold and silver?
Yeah, it's been a good year for gold and silver overall. But the trend is the trend is your friend, I guess. But the trend with gold and silver has been consistently that line. I mean, we live in a time span of like this right here, and this is what gold and silver does. I mean, but the overall trend is upwards. Why? Because of the buying power of the dollar just consistently it gets less and less. But gold and silver, very strong, and I'm happy with it. And I don't think anyone's ever, unless you're playing day trader, which if you're doing that in physical markets, you're not very smart because of the premiums. You don't play day trader with physical. I mean, that's just something you don't do. But unless you're playing day trader, I don't think anyone's going to go broke hanging on to gold and silver and getting through these cycles that we're seeing in our lifetime. And with the holiday right now, I expected to see higher than prices than we're seeing right now, but typically, before the new year, prices are kind of a little bit weak. I think if you go back and you look at charts, I'm not a real big chartist guy, but I have a good memory of 40 years of kind of trends that I've seen over the course of the years with gold and silver, and weakness before the holidays is one of them, generally speaking. I don't know if that happens every year, but yeah, I'm sorry. But yeah, I think we're going to continue to see higher prices. The dollar buys less and less, and I don't ever see that trend getting better. If you look at the CPI, CPI chart, it's just a downwards. It just goes like this, and it gets worse and worse. And that's the buying power of the U.S. dollar. I mean, that's a direct reflection of why gold is where it's at. And I don't think anywhere in that chart we have ever seen that chart, the one that the Fed puts out, that CPI chart, I don't think, yeah, I don't think we've ever seen consumer price index. I don't think we've ever seen that get better. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
here's the long term. They have it back to what is it, 1947, and it seems to be going in one direction. I might add, there we are in February of 2020. You see the index
Yep.
level at 259. Last time I did the math of that at 316, it was about 23%.
Yep.
And it's interesting, Brian, because at the same time, you would think, or not think, there's some corners of the world that are talking about the dollar's strength.
Yeah,
Now,
but what does
in
that
terms
mean?
of what you can buy, you're not seeing much strength in terms of compared to other currencies that are running similar policies. Quite a move
Yep.
there, but go ahead. I heard you had a
Well,
comment.
100. You just said the exact thing I was thinking. Compared to what? I mean, that's compared to a basket of other currency. It's kind of like the last horse to the glue factory, isn't it? You know, that's what the dollar probably is the last horse to the glue factory. Like that's simple,
Well,
simple term.
they might still beat the British pound and the yen before it's all said and done. So,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we're kind of looking like we'll be the last horse of it, but you know, that's just and that's a trend that's not going to cease. I mean, I don't see anything changing, and that's kind of what I'm seeing with. I think there's a lot of exuberant people out there thinking that you know the new administration is going to make such a huge, significant impact in the economy, and that the dollar is going to start. I mean, how many people really believe that we're going to see that CPI chart go in the opposite direction in the next 4 years or the next 8 years? Does anybody really believe that? I mean, maybe it won't be as dramatic drops as we've seen, you know, in buying power, but I don't think anybody believes that we're on a reversal. You know, as long as you've got a fiat system like we have, and when they can just endlessly crank this stuff out as your helicopter, Ben Bernanke helicopter, throwing the money out. Yeah, it's never going to get fixed, no matter what policies they institute, no matter what they do. It'll be a short-term fix, but unless you fix the problem of the dollar, but again, not my specialty. My specialty is there you go, handing out the money. That's it. That's the problem. You know, I mean, the problem, you know, is also overspending and all those other things that hopefully they may fix. But the key, biggest problem we have is our fiat system and the banking system that we have right now. And it's not going to get any better. I don't see anybody talking about fixing that. And that means gold and silver are going to continue to do what they've done. This, dun, 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 you know, I'm sorry, but
no, well, I mean, I know what you mean, and
remember, I'm just
interestingly,
a simple country coin dealer. You know, that's me too. I have no technicalities like you know, like the real intelligent guys like you guys out there that know the intricacies of these markets. And I'm just a small town country kind of coin dealer here. That's my
so
opinion
if
on
I
all of
told you that Ben Bernanke actually he was writing a column for the Brookings Institute back in, I believe it was 2016,
it. Right.
and his three planks saying, what if the Fed runs out of tools where negative interest rates, capping longer term interest rates, and then he even said that people giggled at him because of the helicopter money, although in an extreme situation, it shouldn't be ruled out. So Brian is someone who's actually the man on the street trading gold and silver. That those sounded a little odd to you as well, I'm assuming. So
Oh yeah, yeah. That's it just doesn't work. I mean, I'm a Mises guy and Ron Paul guy from way back and the Fed. I mean, that's kind of so you know from way back. That's kind of been my philosophy. I'm not an expert on economics. I won't pretend to be, but yeah, I'd 100% agree. I mean, it's you know it's not coincidental. The price of gold and that CPI line and where the dollar is going. So it's not coincidental, you know.
yeah, and Brian, one last one before we get into the retail order flow. But I
Yes, sir.
last couple questions have been building here. And let me move something out of the way. Here you can see, let's go back to the dollar chart, which we're looking at. Here on 918, come on. We see the dollar low, it was right at par. So now at 108, spot oh 08, that's 8%. So the Fed cuts interest rates by 100 basis points while additionally saying the economy's strong and while inflation is accelerating again. So despite that, the dollar is up, dollar index, excuse me, up 8%. We actually see a similar pattern here in the bond market, which is quite stunning. Here on the
Mm.
18th, you see the low 369. So
Yep.
about 90 basis points, which doesn't seem like the best news for the Fed yet. Coming back to gold and silver, here we take a look. Here's silver on the 18th, and let's call it somewhere around, it was trading between 30 and a half, 31 and a half. So silver down a dollar or so, but gold is actually up over that period.
Right.
Obviously, what I'm getting at here, you know that whether we think this is the way it should be or not, dollar index up, gold and silver off and down. What happens if Trump's tariffs don't work the way I think many people are expecting them to work, which I don't think will work? I mean, if gold and silver hung in there while the dollar's up, dollar index up 8%, what happens when that reverses?
I mean, that 8%, what is that really though? It's kind of a sleight of hand. What are they doing to create that? But I think first off with silver, I think silver is completely. I don't think it has real. The dollar has any relationship with the price of silver. I think the silver is kind of its own market out there. I believe that again, I've talked about this before. I believe that the silver market is not controlled by the dollar per se. It's controlled by a couple things. It's controlled by manufacturing and industry who use up most of the silver, not stackers. We are not. We don't. We don't create large usage of silver overall. And commercial banks that are out there manipulating the price of silver in the what I call the Crimex Comex markets. I talked about. I'm a big fan of Ted Butler. I've talked about this many times before. Mr. Butler was able, again, when I say I'm a poor country coin dealer, there's some truth to that. This is my specialty. This is what I've done since I was a kid. I'm 40 plus years of doing rare coins and precious metals. I stopped counting at 40. And, I have watched for the last 40 years, these markets get monkey hammered down, particularly silver. I mean, now after years and years and years, we understand what happened to the Hunt brothers. The Hunt brothers got taken down by the Crimex family. Basically, the Hunt brothers' loans got called in. You have to liquidate your position when your loans get called in, and basically, I don't think silver is an organic market per se. The only thing organic about silver is the industrial usage, which I think Ted Butler talked about at some point. There's so much of this paper trading around that you cannot make electronics. You can't make a circuit board with a contract with a piece of paper. You can't make again, silver is used in so many products that we have, and I think we're coming to that day where silver is going to be very tough to locate and very tough to source. I mean, and then the paper shenanigans will be over. I call it in the silver market where the tail wags the dog. And to me, the tail are the paper markets. And the tail has been wagging the dogs for, in my opinion, for 4 decades right now. But I believe the dog, being the physical market, the actual physical supply, is going to at some point be wagging the tail pretty violently as well. Because how many more silver mines are opening up there? Who's producing large amounts of silver out there? Really, who is producing? What mines are producing large amounts? New mines. I mean, I'm very in tight with metal ore. I've been selling them. We do a lot of refining with metal ore, particularly in silver. Gold's not our thing, but silver. 55-gallon drums of coins and silverware and flatware that we buy from other dealers and stuff. We're kind of a wholesaler in that. And here's interesting, and again, I'm digressing here a little bit, but it probably all fits into the big picture. Metal ore is at 16 weeks, 16 weeks for refining right now. Why is that? I mean, we're not taking in, none of the scrap guys that I'm talking to, guys that do what we do, buy, silver coins and 55-gallon drums and then, send them out to be refined. Our businesses haven't picked up dramatically, in scrap business. Of course, the scrap business, scrap metal as far as silverware, jewelry, and even scrap coin has slowed down dramatically over the years. At one point, we used to get huge amounts of this stuff in. Over the decades, over the years, over the days, it's less and less and less. So why is metal ore so busy? Well, I recently came into the understanding, talking to my account rep there, is that they're bringing in huge amounts of silver from Mexico. So metal ore is doing a lot of refining out of Mexico. And that's actually slowed down their silver process to 16 weeks. Their silver refining. I also believe that a lot of
You're talking
investment.
about what's coming from the mine supply and being
Yeah,
refined
I
directly
think
from there.
it's taking a front seat to maybe a lot of the dealers like myself that are sending in. You know what I mean? Because it's what's causing metal ore to be 16 weeks backlogged on silver. We're the largest refiners in our country. Metal ore is all over the country. They're Switzerland, Japan. They just opened offices in Hong Kong. One of the largest refiners in the world, basically, multi international company. Um, you know, when I got when they accepted me, they flew an attorney from Chicago to come down and visit me in my coin store to make sure a Swiss company, the paperwork was about this thick. I had to hire an attorney to actually even fill it out for me. I didn't even know international law and most of it, but they're a hardcore company. They're 16 weeks behind on silver refining. It ain't coming from guys like me, the poor old country guys. It ain't coming from the scrappers out there. So it's got to be coming from the refiners is the reason they're so backed up in silver. Why? And also, well, why would they be backed up? Why would they be pushing that stuff through so much and maybe even a cheaper profit margin? Perhaps the reason is because there is a shortage out there of silver as far as silver used in the manufacturing processes out there. Maybe silver needed for the ETF, something else. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but the ETF shorts that they've been talking about recently. Ted Butler talked about a long time that maybe that's just a real excuse for being short silver to put in there. I don't know. I don't know the technicalities of that, but certainly something to look at. But I'm telling you is so there's a problem with silver out there, physical silver. And again, when refiners are backed up that much and it's not coming from scrap silver, it's coming from the mines. I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. It's kind of weird because you would think how slow things are that they would not be backed up. You know what I mean? Or with the price of silver going down, when that indicates. But none of those things line up. And again, I really believe that the entire silver market is controlled by a handful of banks out there. It's not controlled by, there's nothing organic about the silver market, in my opinion, unless you think people trading paper in the silver market is organic, which I don't. To me, an organic market is silver. You have a product that millions and millions of people need. The dog should be wagging the tail, and always should have been wagging the tail.
Brian, that makes a lot of sense what you're saying and leads into my next question here, where in terms of the selling on the retail side, and this is going to be great
Right.
to get your perspective on. I have a friend who is a wholesaler. He told me about a month ago that in terms of number of sells to number of buys,
Mhm.
he said it was 15 to 1 selling for each buy. Now, that was in terms of individual orders. If you added by weight, he said it was about 5 to 1 of selling to buying. Second data point I'll mention is that I saw a video from another coin shop actually in Florida where he was mentioning that for every 1,000 ounces they buy back, they're selling about 50 or 100.
Right.
I've certainly heard other folks on Twitter. Bob Coleman talks about that there's been a lot of selling. So would love to hear what you're seeing in that, what you can share of what you're seeing directly, which I know each business is different. So if there's anything you can
Absolutely.
extrapolate from what you've been hearing about other people and just to help everyone understand what is actually going on there.
I'm going to work specifically with silver. I'm going to talk specifically about silver, not gold so much. It's a kind of different animal.
Quick question on that then. Am I correct that there has been a lot more of the selling has been in silver than on the gold side? Yes.
No, I mean, it's tough for me because, well, yeah, I would say, yeah, we're seeing a little bit more. Well, not really. Well, that's a tough question. Obviously, you can see I'm kind of torn on that because I do see people selling at gold a little bit more here than silver, and I'll tell you why. It's because a lot of my customers, and let me say something. I think that each dealer you talk to has, as you said, is individual, has their own place. I live in La La Land. Our business is on the east side of the intercoastal here. We have, I probably see 7 to 10 Ferraris a day drive by. You know what I'm saying? And we're just in a wealthy area. And that may differ from a guy that's in Montana or somewhere, or in another place in Florida. So the dynamics are going to be different. The dynamics for me is that I've been doing this a long time. We've, 5,000 ounce silver deals are not big deals, really, in my area. Okay. They're nice deals, but they're not big deals overall. And the only capitulation that I've seen, I'm going to speak for myself in silver, has been the three types of capitulation. First is the inheritance, the people that have inherited silver.
Right.
And we see that in gold as well. All right. People come in and we're always curious, why are you selling? Why are you selling? Especially me, and I'm going to get into how many people I've told not to sell and how many phone calls for decades, how many people I've told not to sell and how many people have called me and thanked me over and over for telling them not to sell gold and silver. But the people we're seeing capitulating are going to be, number one, people that inherited. They have no interest in gold and silver. Family members, children, they inherited 10 Krugerrands from dad or Uncle John or a bunch of 100-ounce silver bars. They don't have any interest in silver. You could sit there and talk to them, and I've done this. Hey, why don't you hang on to this? Give this to kids, split this up. Don't cash it in. Keep it. That's your Uncle John was a smart dude. Most of them don't, though. They have no interest. That's the one.
Brian, a quick question. I'm not, for the viewers at home, I'm not too far from him in South Florida. I would imagine that, especially just the way this part of the state is set up, that there are a lot of large estates. If you drive around here, you can see that, like you've mentioned, right. And that I've always imagined there would be a lot of gold and silver that would often get passed down. And I know that's something you've been active in. So,
well, as I mentioned too, we buy a lot from estates for silver, and estate buyers, the people that buy from estates and stuff, sell to us for not for gold, but for silver. Remember, I was telling you we buy flatware, hollowware, and all that stuff in large quantities. That capitulation you see all the time. But as far as gold and silver and platinum deals, there's a huge amount of estates in Florida, but not a lot of them really contain large amounts of gold and silver. I'd say, no, I better not say anything because I'd just be guessing, but very small percentage of estates in Florida do contain physical gold and silver. You know what I mean? But they do. And when they do, they come in here because that's what we're kind of known to buy. So those are the people we see capitulating in gold and silver, is people that inherited. The second capitulation I see, primarily in silver, is going to be weak hands. The blue collar guys, or the guys that bought silver and are a little tight on money right now, or the businessman, that's struggling to pay, his employees or something. Because again, my employees ask, we want to know, why are you selling right now? And we think that you should hang on to this. And this is what we tell people. And that's the second capitulation we have. And how can you tell a guy that's trying to pay his employees not to sell at that point, or is paying his bill? What you do tell them is you say, you're a blessed person that you have it. I'm glad you had it, that you can pay your you know what I'm saying? And then the third type of capitulation we see are the silver sellers, that the Fomo people, the fear of missing out people, the people that jumped in silver at 29, 31, 33, 35 bucks back in 2020, that have been expecting their return or expected to double up or triple up. Some of the expectations were their own fault, and some of the expectations were created by people that hype precious metals. And, there's a lot of those guys out there. But that's probably the third type of capitulation we see. And when we ask them, well, why are you selling? And no matter what you say to them, well, listen, it's going to go up. Look at the chart. That's what we tell them. But no, they're going to buy another asset, Bitcoin. They're going to go into something else that they feel is going to perform. So that's the kind of the third type of person that we see capitulating. But in silver, I have sold, lots and lots and lots of silver. I've sold a lot of silver to retail investors, and they're not showing up. I know these guys. I know these customers. I've 40 years of dealing with people. Like I've been in Broward. I know these customers. I have not seen these deals come back in. I did not see them capitulate in 2011 either, where we were selling way more. This market has been subdued. This is the worst bull market I've ever seen retail sales for gold and silver. Worst, horrible. And the best indicator of that is go out and look for cash for gold shops, right? Every time we've had a bull market since 1980s, and I've been through 3 bull markets in this business, we've had cash for gold shops pop up. There's just a visual, they're not here now. Where are they? Every time we've had a major bull market in gold and silver, all the TV ads start popping up. Yeah, we still got some of them, a couple of those guys out there selling overpriced numismatics on TV. By the way, stay away from those folks. Stay away from the TV sellers. But they're not out there like they were. You know what I'm saying? Where are the guys that buy scrap gold? That every coin shop and every jewelry out there dealer would get at least three people a day would come in. Hey, I'll buy your scrap from you. You know, I'm a scrap dealer with such and such. They're not there. All-time high gold, they're not there. And I tell you why, is because most Americans don't own gold and silver. Only a small. We are such a small community that does, and you know, and it's less and less. I mean, the '80s market was phenomenal. We had people lined up around the corner holding silver trays. I mean, literally silver trays, boxes of stuff. We had people pulling their gold teeth out of their mouth, putting them on the counter. That's not an exaggeration. I mean, just to go to extremes. And the '80s market was just wild. It was crazy. But remember, Americans owned silverware. Americans owned their grandparents. Their parents owned silverware. Their parents, they owned flatware. They owned silver bars. They owned because they were allowed to own silver and gold in the '70s. So it was a popular thing to buy. They owned that stuff. '80s came around. Those prices hit. I mean, they were the 2011, 2012 market far more subdued, even though we did see a lot of, you saw the cash for gold shops pop up, remember, 2011, 12. Far more subdued than the '80s market, but still a lot more competition. We saw more shops open up, doing what we're doing. We saw more scrap guys, and again, that market was what was the high at the time, I think, but no less. We're breaking, we're breaking 19 or something like that. We're breaking what, 26, 2,700? No scrap. There's no jewelry coming in, because they don't own it anymore. It's their parents own it, their grandparents own it. There's no scrap silver coming in because who the hell entertains with silver anymore? All that traditional scrap that used to come in is not coming in. So when it comes to silver, where is the pickup? Well, it's got to be the mines. I'm saying? The mines are the only people that can supply large amounts of silver because the public ain't doing it anymore.
Well, the only problem with that is that we couldn't have a situation farther away from bringing new silver production online, because it's while we're in the middle of this, you have most of the mining companies are still getting clobbered,
yeah.
and the time lag it takes to get the silver out. So,
well, I think, again, I like to use my friend Ted Butler's. When I say friend, I subscribe to his newsletters for years, and Butler Research, and I also I conversed with him when I was confused about something. I conversed with him with email, and he was very open, very nice guy to answer and talk with. And I believe at some point we're going to see what Ted Butler called a pants, because I was talking about physical supply, and I'm sorry, Ted Butler was. I believe at some point we're going to see what Ted Butler called a full pants down moment, where there's no physical available. And there's something going on with 1,000-ounce bars right now that I'm told too. The premiums, Bob Coleman was talking about 1,000-ounce bar premium with 50 cents over now.
yeah.
Why? In the face of that, there's no retail silver selling, and or very little, and then we're not selling a lot. And I'll hit back on that real quick.
Did you mean no, very little retail buying?
Retail buying, yes, yeah. For when I'm saying selling, for us selling, me selling, my apologies. Yeah, it depends on what side of the counter you're on, but very little retail buying out there. Just doesn't make any sense, Chris. Then I think that we may be near what Ted Butler called the pants down moment. You know what I'm saying? Where all of a sudden manufacturers and people that need silver for industry are going to need silver, and it's not there. And it doesn't make sense. Again, why are premiums up on 1,000-ounce bars, specifically 1,000-ounce bars? Why is metal ore backed up? Why is that big short position? And when I start to kind of look from the big picture, again, I'm not a technical guy. When I start to look at the big picture, I think there's some serious problems with physical supply out there. I really do. I don't think it's out there. And I think a lot of investment silver is also probably being melted down as well. Investment silver is being melted down.
That's what I've heard. That was actually what I was going to ask you about next. And maybe in this final one, I'll give you two parts here. Is A, anything that you have heard or thoughts you have on, heard from wholesalers that they're seeing product melted down, which I assume is going into industrial usage. And then the second part, again, feel free to pass in this. I don't want you to reveal anything confidential yet. You mentioned the level of buying this year. Do you know, do you think you sold more silver this year or last year? If you
Oh, we
like
sold more
turn.
silver last year, for
Okay.
sure. I
So
mean,
it's
silver
down a bit this year on the buy side.
silver sales are terrible. They've just dropped off a cliff completely. Retail silver sales. But again, when I was touching on capitulation, we haven't seen it in large scale. I mean, me personally, I haven't seen it on large scale. I've seen the three types of people that have capitulated. But again, I'm kind of miffed by this premium on 1,000 ounce bars. Uh, Again, 1,000 ounce bars are used primarily by who? Probably large investors, people like ETFs that would need 1,000 ounce bars. That's who needs 1,000 ounce bars. Industry needs 1,000 ounce bars. But meanwhile, you could buy 90% and all those other stuff probably for less than 50 cents silver.
Brian, Chris needs some 1,000 ounce bars too, as you can see.
What's that now? I'm sorry. Oh yeah,
Chris over here. I need some 1,000 ounce bars too. Look at my casa.
yeah. They're again
Gonna
mostly.
come over and build some forts later. We could toss these around, play some
Yeah.
games.
The 1,000 ounce bars are nice, but I got to tell you, the problem with retail folks, if avoid them like the plague. They're such a pain to ship. They're expensive to
Yes,
ship.
yes.
If you don't have insurance. Yeah. But capitulation, haven't seen it here. And again, I believe we're looking at what Ted Butler says, a full pants down moment when it comes to they're going to go to the coffers and going to say there's no silver here. And all those things are adding up. Again, metal ore being backed up mostly from mines, no retail silver company. I mean, it just kind of all points to that picture. I think there's issues.
Well, fortunately, Brian, I appreciate everything you shared in that. If people do need silver, or if they have come to the decision or are in a situation where they need to sell silver back, I know you've helped a lot of people with that, which I think gets understated a lot, is not often talked about as much when people buy precious metals. It certainly is something that's been important this year when we've seen more selling, and I know some dealers paying under spot right now. And
Oh
anyway,
yeah, yeah. Across the
um,
board, gold's worse. Gold is worse right now as far as the discounts on gold across the board. Um, stuff is trading at major dealers are paying less than what the refiners are paying. Major dealers are out there paying 98.5% on a lot of gold bullion coins that before had a small premium. So retail sales have dropped off a cliff, but the prices continue to climb.
yeah. It's been interesting. The opposite of what most of us expected. And Brian, perhaps just in wrapping up, can you let people know where they can find you on the web and also the phone number if anyone wants to reach out, get more information, or has trading or investing they
Sure.
need to do?
I'm commercial rare coins and precious metals. I've been in Lauderdale by the Sea, I think, since 1995. Started working with my father back in the 80s. That's kind of how I got in this business, second generation. We buy and sell rare coins, precious metals, and we also have an estate jewelry business that does other things too, estates and things. But we don't do any mail order sales, really. We don't do any mail order. We don't do any online sales per se. We're kind of a brick and mortar, straight to your face. But if people are looking for large deals and they can do wires, we can do shipping, that kind of deal. And you can find me on also, we have a YouTube channel called Commercial Rare Coins and Precious Metals as well, where I talk about, kind of the things that we talk about right here. And I think that's pretty much it, Mike. You can find me on Twitter and X as well as Brian Kuzmar.
Oh wow, we got the end of the year forecast. I gotta check this out. See what did you go with? Were you close?
I forget what I said in that video, but no, I believe I was kind of correct because what I was thinking is that I wasn't expecting any big price movements upward. Typically, seasonal, right before the holidays, it's always weak. It seems always weak. Now I have to go back and look at the yearly charts, but typically it's weak this time of year. So I think I probably just made the prediction that maybe we'll see it up a little bit higher, but I kind of feel it's going to be weak until the new year, and then we'll see higher prices in the new year. So let's see how that prediction does.
I'm guessing you said about 26.15 in gold and 29.40. If you said something different, that means we have a price change coming on Tuesday. But in
That's
either
exactly, sir.
in either case, all this silliness aside, well, maybe not
Hey,
entirely, but and of
great stuff.
course, then not just the fact that this exists, but what he's actually done and all that. I appreciate that there are some good people out there in the industry, and It was really nice to come down to your store and meet you. I know you know our dear friend Rafi as well.
Yeah, I
And
love.
it's just nice to meet you and see that there are good people out there. And I would feel comfortable recommending anyone that needs to do business in gold and silver to check out Commercial Rare Coins. And Brian Kuzmar, thanks for joining us. I'll have to swing down there again soon. And
Absolutely, please do.
but I think this was helpful for people in what was one of the themes in my mind, at least for 2024. And I have to pick this up again and do it soon in 2025. But Happy New Year to you, my friend. And Happy New Year to everybody watching at home. Sure appreciate you guys being here for everything we've done this year. And Brian, with that said, we'll wrap up, but we'll look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Absolutely, buy and hold.
Well, thank you, Brian, and thank you at home for watching. Sure appreciate you being here and being here with us all year as we are now finally wrapping up 2024 and what has been an historic year for the metals. So a lot to look forward to, and we will be back picking it up in the new year in just a few days, although real quick, in case you saw that Silver Chopper Ben backdrop in the video, well, here's your chance to get your very own Helicopter Ben Bernanke 26-ounce 395 silver statue where he comes and throws $100 bills all over your desk. And if you've always dreamed of having a silver minted Helicopter Ben Bernanke statue, well, just click in the link in the description field below to find out how you can get your own. So Happy New Year, and we will see you again in 2025.